In this video, we're going to solve the ALEKS problem called finding an angle measure for a triangle sharing a side with another triangle. So this problem is going to give us two triangles that are jammed up together. Notice that some of the sides of the triangle have this marking on them. I'm going to make it a little bit more pronounced. That notation means that these sides are all of the same length. So this notation here means that they're all three of those sides have the same length. We've been given one angle in the triangle and we are being asked to solve for a different angle in a different triangle. So one of the things that we're going to keep in mind when we solve this problem is that for a triangle, the sum of all of the angles will always add up to 180 degrees. That's going to be really important in solving the problem. The other property that we're going to keep in mind is that if we have a symmetrical triangle like this, where two of the sides of the triangle are exactly the same, so this side is the same as this side, that means this is a nice symmetrical triangle. The angles at the ends here, so the angle at each of these angles, they have to be exactly the same. So if this angle is 27 degrees, due to the symmetry of this triangle, the angle that's on the opposite side of the triangle also has to be 27 degrees. So again, this is only going to apply when the triangle is symmetrical. If we know the angle of one side, we know that the angle on the opposite side is exactly the same. And that is going to help us figure out the angle of this, this angle. That sounds so funny. That's going to help us figure out the value of this angle right here. We know that all of the angles are going to add up to 180 degrees. We have two 27-degree angles, and we just don't know. I'm going to call this one y. We don't know the value of this little guy up there. 180 degrees is 54. 27 plus 27 is 54 plus y. And so we can solve for y. Y equals 126 degrees. I'm just going to write that in, 126 degrees. We've solved for that, assuming that I did all that math correct. So the other thing that we're going to keep in mind is if we have a straight line, that straight line has an angle of 180 degrees. And in this situation, we've got this straight line. We know that this much of the straight line is 126 degrees, so we can use that to help us figure out this angle on this side over here. So for this, which we know is a 180 degree angle, we can solve for, I'm going to call this guy z. We can figure out what z is. 180 degrees is equal to 126 plus whatever that z angle is. 180 minus 126 is 54. Z equals 54. And I'm just going to go ahead and write that in. Now let's take a look at what we've got going on over here. So again, we have another situation where we have two identical sides. And that means that this angle right here is exactly the same as the angle at the end of the other identical side. So we've got these two identical sides, and the angles at the end of each of those identical sides, they have to be equal to each other. So we know that this guy right here is also 54 degrees because they are on opposite sides. They have that identical side length. And so now we're going to go back to this property. The sum of all of the angles of this triangle has to add up to 180. 180 is the 54 degree angle plus the other 54 degree angle plus x. I'm working in this spot right here. 180 is 54 plus 54 is 108 plus x. And that means that x is 72. Again, assuming that I did all my addition and subtraction correct, that value of x is 72.